Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team, 104.5theteam.com. Barry Bloom, national reporter and columnist for MLB.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Boomski. And Barry, love the story you wrote this week in regards to both the Yankees and Mets in the state of New York. This is a fun time for baseball in the Empire State right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I really think it is. When you get down to it, I went over a little bit of the history. There's been one Subway Series since 1956, and the Dodgers and Giants leaving, and that was 2000, and the Yankees beat the Mets in 5 games. And there's only been 3 seasons since the Mets came into existence in '62 that the Yankees and the Mets have been in the playoffs in the same year, 99, 2000, and 2006. So I think anytime you have Yankees and Mets in first place at home in June, it's a good time for baseball in New York.
Now, speaking of those Yankees, Barry, you got to see Masahiro Tanaka in person. Is it time to stop worrying, or do we just kind of just turn a blind eye to that possible elbow issue for a little bit?
I don't think you can ever turn a blind eye to it. It's a problem that it's going to explode at some point. I don't think there's any way you can get around it. But I think the important thing is that in the interim, he looks like the pitcher from the first half of last season again, to me, the other night. And he's spotting balls. He's using all his pitches. He's locating them. And, that's really the important thing for him. Because, what teams are doing now, and you saw a little bit with the Nationals, is they're not letting him get too deep in counts. They're swinging early in the counts. But that's good for him because it's minimizing his pitch count. I think he threw 78 pitches in Seattle in the previous start and 87 the other night. And, they're going to put a clock on him and make sure they don't overuse him and see how long it takes because, really, to me, it's a ticking time bomb.
Barry Bloom with MLB.com with Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. Barry, it's strange just to say, Masahiro Tanaka's elbow is going to blow out at some point. It's a weird feeling and vibe. Did the Yankees handle this properly, in your opinion, throughout this entire process?
I'm very much, I came out on this the other day after watching Matt Harvey pitch out in Phoenix. I think the Mets did the right thing to have Harvey go in, get the surgery, get it out of the way, and move forward with this and rest him for 17 months, so that it went to the outer extent of where you go with Tommy John surgery, which is supposed to be 12 to 18-month rehab, and they didn't want to take any chances. So I think if it was me, I'd have wanted to do the surgery last July and get him on the path where now you're talking about it's July and a year, and you're probably not going to pitch him this season, but he probably would have been ready to go full bore with that that's hanging over his head in time for the 2016 season. Now, saying that, Tanaka obviously is a veteran with all the innings he's pitched in Japan and quite a bit older than Harvey or Skaggs or Tyler Corbin, who's going through the same thing right now in Arizona. And the Yankees had a decision there, and I'm sure that with Tanaka and his agent, his people, they decided on this course because you can't force the player to do it if he doesn't want to do it. And I don't think Tanaka so far has wanted to do it if there was an outside chance of this getting done. Plus, there's a lot more money invested in Tanaka right now. There isn't any of the younger pitchers we're talking about. So there's a lot of things to juggle there. I'm not going to second guess the Yankees or anybody on how they do things. You just have results. And the results are, when the Diamondbacks put David Hudson out there for 10 months after his surgery, he blew it out again. When the Days just put Jared Parker out there 13 months after his surgery, he fractured his elbow. I mean, all you can do is look at results, and then you can go back and second guess and go, gee, we should have done it differently. But all you can do really is learn from that and move on. And the next time you have it with other young pitchers, you make a different decision. So I think Tanaka is pretty much a unique case.
But it's fair to say, Barry, the Yankees fans should be far more concerned with Masahiro Tanaka than Mets fans should be with Matt Harvey.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, there's not that ulnar ligament tears don't go away. I mean, whatever he had, the partial, slightly partial, it's going to get worse. But also, there are guys who've been able to pitch through things. Tom Glavine pitched through, when he was with the Mets, pitched through a torn rotator cuff for the whole season. Never had surgery, and the thing righted itself. So there's always special cases. But yeah, definitely, if I'm a Yankee fan, I'd be a lot more worried about Tanaka than any Met fan should be about Harvey at this point. With Harvey, it's just finding the rhythm and learning how to pitch and, doing all the things that a young guy needs to do post-surgery.
Barry Bloom, national reporter and columnist for MLB.com, at Boomski on Twitter. Barry, Matt Harvey has seemed to hit a wall a little bit as of late. How concerned should we be about Matt Harvey in his progression this season?
I don't think you should be too concerned. He had, I think, 3 out of his last 4 starts haven't been very good. The interim one in Phoenix, he let up a couple of home runs, but he still struck out 9 and won the game and looked really good at times, very sharp. And that's against a very good hitting Diamondback team, with Paul Goldschmidt in the middle of the lineup, who, for my money, you could take Harper, you can take Trout. Paul Goldschmidt's the best young player in baseball. I watch him all the time. There's nobody that does what Goldschmidt does. And they went through, and he got through that lineup in Chase Field, which is a very hard place to pitch, unlike Citi Field, which is an easier place to pitch. But then last night, you have the Giants, and the Giants they're terrific. I mean, I watch them all the time. If the Giants were the Yankees and the Mets with that exact same team and doing what they've done in the last 5 years, they would be considered one of the best teams in history. There's just no doubt about it in my mind. Otherwise, they go under the radar out there, but all they do is win. And so they find a way. They pick teams. They've got great scouting. They pick apart a guy like Harvey and find their weaknesses, and then they pounce on them. And if you don't make adjustments, even better to better in the game, you're going to get killed. And I think that's what happened with Harvey last night. I think it's just issues where, you are going to hit a wall after the adrenaline drops from coming back from such a surgery. And then you really have to start making adjustments to everybody else in the league, or scouting like crazy.
All right, Barry, New York Yankees lose Andrew Miller to the disabled list last night. How big of a hit is it going to be to lose this closer for an extended period of time?
Yeah, it's a hit, but I just don't think it's that big a hit as long as Betances is healthy. I mean, to me, and I was talking with a friend of mine last night, Ken Davidoff, who writes for the Post. To me, Betances should have been the closer. I know he had a lousy spring, but, be that as it may, he's got the arm, he's got the stuff. To me, this would have been like 1996, and John Wetland goes to free agency, and you have Mariano Rivera there, and by golly, we're going to go out and get a left-hander and see which one is the better one rather than put Rivera in as the closer. Now, nobody did that, and he turns out to be probably the best closer in history. I think it's the same thing. I don't know that Betances, you can never talk about the long term until a guy's done it for 19 and 20 years, but I think he's just got the stuff to be the closer. And this puts him in a position where, okay, Robertson's gone, Miller's on the disabled list. Miller probably should have been a setup guy. I mean, if I judge it, I'm looking at it as this. Miller has been a spot setup guy for his entire career. Suddenly, he's being put in a closer role and being used a lot more often, and his arm didn't hold up to it. Maybe he's a setup guy. When you come back, you put him in his normal role and let him ease back in, and hopefully Betances will do his job. And with the stuff he has, he should be terrific. He should be one of the best closers in baseball. So I think it forces the Yankees' hands into Betances as the closer. And if he does what he's supposed to do, Miller probably comes back as Betances' setup guy.
Barry Bloom, national reporter and columnist for MLB.com. And Barry, in your column this week about the Yankees and the Mets and how baseball is just so much fun right now in the state of New York, is it strange to you that TV ratings are down on yes? There doesn't seem to be, and we as a radio station, and we're home for Yankees baseball, there's not that same exciting vibe around the New York Yankees this year. Do you feel that when you're around the team? And if so, what do you attribute that to?
I just attribute it to the fact that, you've gone through a year where Rivera was retiring, a year where Jeter was retiring. They honored Torrey last year after the Hall of Fame. I mean, that era of Yankee baseball is now irrevocably over. And so you're starting a new era here with the vestiges of really a pretty put-together team from everywhere. I think Gregorius, I've seen him a lot out in Arizona. I think he's a great young player. But as I was saying to Girardi yesterday in the press conference, if you put up this kid who never was given a chance to start in Arizona, didn't play regularly, didn't hit against left-handed pitching, now he comes to New York and he's got to be the starting shortstop, and he's succeeding Jeter, and he's got to play every day and hit all kinds of pitching in New York. That's a pretty heavy load for any young player at he's 25 years old. I think that the upside potential of that kid is amazing. If the Yankees stick with him, which it looks like they're going to do, he's going to be fine. And then you have, the whole A-Rod story, which, is fairly amazing considering where he came back from. I think it's a team that gets traction as the season goes on. They're playing much better than I think most people, fans, experts expected. I mean, I picked them to finish first in that division because I looked at it and said, Baltimore's not going to be the same, without, Cruz and Markakis, and they haven't replaced these people. Boston, their frontline pitching is terrible, and that's played itself out that way. Toronto always has its issues and plays well at times, but never has enough pitching. And Tampa's played much better with the loss of all their players than I think anybody else thought. But the division's wide open for the Yankees to take. And my thing in spring training was, you're going in with, how is CC going to do? How is Tanaka going to do? Is Pineda going to hold up? And that's your three major questions. Plus, you're moving, Betances or somebody into the closer role. That was a big question. And you're having Gregorius replace Jeter. That's a lot of things. Plus adding Teixeira and Beltran and those guys coming back from injuries, and what do they have left? And now you're all basically, it's 2 months in, 2.5 months, and you're finding out that it's all working out. And if you said it's all going to work out in spring training, then you have to pick the Yankees to win the division because if everybody's healthy, they're too talented. It's just the way it is in baseball these days. So I think if they're there in September, everybody's going to get excited about it. If the Mets hold on, and I think they're in a lousy division too. I mean, Washington's been playing well below its capability all season, and the other three teams in the division just stink. So the Mets, with their pitching, are really a good barometer of where they could be this year and then in the years to come. And if they can hold on, you've got a series, I think, September 18th at Citi Field between the Yankees and Mets at a time in September where if the two teams are playing for something, you've never had a series between the Yankees and Mets at that time of year. It should be fantastic. And the city will be turned on to it, and then we'll see what happens if both of them or one of them make the playoffs. I mean, there's too much season left to go to be worried about all of this where early ratings and attendance and school is out and, blah, 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 blah. There's plenty of interest, I think, in the long term with the Yankees.
Barry Bloom, national reporter and columnist for MLB.com. He spent some time with the Mets and Yankees here recently. Follow him on Twitter at Boomski. Great columns as well at MLB.com. Barry, thanks so much for your time today, and we look forward to continue to follow your stories.
Sure. I'm glad to be on, and thanks for the interview. Anytime you need me, I'm there.